Thank you for Jeremy, and thank you for the tremendous chos. So we're going to start. Okay, so basically what we're going to try to do today, I gave a share in the past in Kinloss, and I'm going to do it a very similar way. I'm going to ask 7 questions, and there's going to be one answer for all 7 questions. And that way we'll go through several different halachos, and we'll try to connect everything together at the middle, towards the end of this year. So I hope everyone can see the presentation. Make it a bit larger.
Yeah, up on the screen.
Okay. Let me say there. So, second, make it a bit larger. I'm going to start off just with a halacha before we start the questions. This very interesting halacha brought down at the beginning of Hilchos Pesach in the Shulchan Aruch that before Pesach you have to start learning 30 days before. And the reason why we have to learn 30 days before Pesach, and theoretically people say you have to learn 30 days before every single Chag, is that you're supposed to prepare. I would say you're supposed to prepare for the Chag, technical preparations as buying food and grocery shopping, but also you're supposed to prepare learning the halachos and preparing yourself spiritually to the Chag as well. So that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to go through different halachos and different aspects of Pesach and try to connect to this idea of Pesach. So the first thing I want to try to understand is the essence of the Isser of Chametz. The Isser of Chametz is very, very unique, and we don't find many similar Isserim to the Isser of Chametz. So the first thing I want to try to clarify is, how is this Isser different? The Isser of eating Chametz, how is it different from other Isserim that we have in the Torah? So the first difference of Isser Chametz is that we find that by Chametz we have a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah mechachamim. It's not a mitzvah from the Torah. We have a mitzvah to do bedikas Chametz, to check and look to make sure that we don't have any Chametz in our houses, and that we don't find by any other Isser. You don't have to check. You don't have to check to see if there's blood in the steak that we eat. My wife said that there is one other case where we have a mitzvah bedika, and that's by nida, but I think that's a bit different. So, why in Pesach are we so machmir that you need to check before Pesach to see if you have chametz? Why is Pesach inherently different? Again, related to the same question, we find by Pesach, by chametz, that there's a mitzvah of burning the chametz. And this is one of the only cases where we have another mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to destroy it. So why on Pesach, by chametz, do we have this idea of destroying the chametz? And related again to the first question, I'm going a bit fast, but we'll try to make it a bit clear as we continue. Pesach is something, the chametz is very, very unusual, because usually by other Yisurim, if you have, let's say, a pot of chicken soup and a small drop of milk falls inside, the chicken soup is still kosher, because there's a term in halacha called batel b'shishim, that it basically gets canceled out. We don't see it as an isser. But if you have a small amount of chametz that falls into anything you eat on Pesach, it becomes automatically usher, even if it's just a small portion. And there's a very interesting chumrah that some Israelis keep, and that is that some people don't drink from the water from the Kinneret, because they say that you might have a small portion of chametz in the Kinneret, and that might make the whole Kinneret usher, because there's a small amount of chametz. So some people don't drink the water from the Kinneret in Pesach. So again, all these questions are underneath the same category of, why is the Isser of Chametz so different? Why are we so machmir? Why are we so strict and so harsh with the Isser of Chametz? Whereas with other Yisurim, we're not so machmir. If you look at other Yisurim that we have in the Torah, we're not so machmir. Usually it's going to be batel. Usually you don't have to burn it. You don't have to go looking for it. Why by chametz are we so careful and we're so strict? So that's question number 1. I hope that's clear. Of course, feel comfortable to stop me or ask questions. Say there. So the second question I want to ask is, why on Pesach, specifically Pesach, do we have a mitzvah of sipor? The mitzvah to tell over to share with our children this idea of Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim. Why do I have to tell it over to my children? By Shavuos, by Sukkot, we don't have this mitzvah of Sipur. We don't have to be misaper to our children what happened in Shavuos. We don't have to be misaper to our children what happened on Sukkot. Why specifically by Pesach we need to tell our children what happened, to inform them, to share it with them, that they should experience it? What's so unique by Pesach? And that's brought down the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch says, Chayav Adam, person has to lasuk be'hilchos Pesach. He has to be osik to deal with the halachos of Pesach. V'lesaper b'nisim, and he has to tell over b'nisim and niflos. L'sha'asa kadosh b'chu la'avatenu. He has to share the stories that happened to our fathers. Until he feels really, really tired. So why specifically by Pesach? The Torah says, "V'higata levincha." You have to tell your children. That's why the Haggadah is called Haggadah. You have to tell it over. But why? Why by Pesach is it so crucial and so important to share with our children? We don't find it by any other mitzvah almost. Why specifically Pesach? So that's question number 2. Moving on. Question number 3. Let's see 1 second. Why is it not working? Okay. Question number 3 is something very interesting. This year we won't feel it as much, but we know that by Leil HaSeder there's an idea of eating it with other Jews, eating it with other people. Usually we eat it together with families. But why? Why on Pesach do we find that there's a mitzvah, especially by the Korban Pesach, to eat it with a group of people, to eat it together with other Jews? Theoretically, by the Korban Pesach, we find that they wouldn't shecht one Korban for one person. You would have to shecht a Korban for a group of people. But why? Why can't you just sit by yourself on the night Seder and just eat by yourself? Why is it so crucial to eat with a group of people? So today, with the corona, it might be a bit difficult. You might feel a bit lonely. It's not ideal. But why by Pesach, compared to other Chagim, is it so important to do it with other people? So that is question number 3. Okay? Question number 4. I hope everything is clear. Feel comfortable to ask questions in the middle. Question number 4 is, we find by Pesach that if a person is not circumcised, he didn't have a bris milah, then he cannot eat the Korban Pesach. He can't theoretically celebrate the Pesach with you. Why is it so important to be circumcised? Find that other mitzvahs, it's not a condition. For example, if you want to be a kind of mitzvah of sukkah, you don't have to be circumcised. Why is it so important by Pesach for a person to be circumcised? Okay. Let's say the Gemara. So that is question number 4. Okay. Before I continue, does anyone have any answers for the first 4 questions? Why is it important to be circumcised? Why is it important to eat it with a group of people? Why is it important to, specifically by Pesach, to say the story? And why are we so machmir by chametz? Does anyone have any idea, any thought? Okay. Okay, so we'll continue, and if anyone has any ideas, you'll share it at the end. Another interesting thing that we have only by Pesach is this term of Pesach Sheni. That basically, if you didn't if you didn't have a chance to celebrate the first Pesach, and you daled and Tetvav Nisan, then you can theoretically celebrate Pesach, and we can push it off by a month and celebrate it in the month of Iyar. And that is something that we only find by Pesach. We don't find that you get another opportunity and another chance by other holidays. If you missed Yom Kippur, you missed Yom Kippur. According to Chassidus, they say you might have another day, but the straightforward answer is if you miss Yom Kippur, that's it. You have to wait to the next year. Why Pesach do you have another chance? Why Pesach are we so flexible and are willing to give you another chance? So that's the fifth question, the question about Pesach Sheni. By the way, I have one of my rabbi friends who he's pushing to try to celebrate Pesach Sheni in Eretz Yisrael. He thinks that because of Corona, we should be able to celebrate, and people aren't able to join together for Leil HaSeder. He says maybe we'll just have Pesach Sheni and have it together with our families on another month. I'm not sure we'll be able to another month. B'ezrat Hashem, he will, but he really wants to use this practice even today. But today we don't really do Pesach Sheni because we don't have Pesach Mikdash. Some people have the minhag of eating matzahs on Pesach Sheni. But why on Pesach do we give you another opportunity? Do we give you another chance?
If I could just jump in with a question on that one, sorry, yeah. Ashi. If one were to celebrate Pesach Sheni, you would still have an issur of eating chametz during the Pesach Rishon, wouldn't you?
Yeah. If there is a machlokas,
everybody together for Seder, what's he actually imagining he's going to save?
You're saying what would he do in the second Pesach or the first Pesach?
No, in the first Pesach, what does he actually save by having Pesach Sheni? He still can't eat matzah. Sorry, right. Still can't eat chametz. He still needs to observe 7 days of separation. He just needs to do it all over.
So I can share the post with you if you want. I can share with you after, and anyone else who's interested. But basically, his idea is that in the first Leil HaSeder, that's the one that's coming up, we're not able to celebrate it as a family, as a chabura, as a group. So he's saying maybe we'll complete that element on Pesach Sheni. You're right that we'll still be eating matzahs, and we won't be eating chametz. But theoretically, there is something that we'll be missing. Which is crucial for this Pesach, this idea of family, this idea of chabura. So that's what he's trying to kind of fix with having Pesach Sheni. And that's I don't think we'll actually do that, but that was a thought that he was having this year. The sixth question is something which I think I've asked as a child, and I think is a very important question to try to understand by Pesach Mitzrayim. Something that happened in Pesach when we were in Egypt, we find that Am Yisrael took the blood and they smeared it by the door, by their posts, by the mezuzot. And theoretically, it's a very weird concept. Why would we need to smear blood by our door if Hashem knows which house is a Jewish house and which house is not a Jewish house? It seems weird. It seems strange. Why would we need to do it? Theoretically, Hashem knows. Hashem, he's able to be mafchin, to tell a difference, to distinguish between a Jew and a non-Jew. So why do you need this idea of spreading blood on the doorstep of a Jew? And why specifically blood? You can use many other things. This whole idea of putting blood by the doorstep is something really, really unusual. It's always troubled me a bit. So I looked into it a bit this year, but I think it's one of the important questions that we should ask ourselves. I know today we don't smear bloods on the door, but how do we understand this issur or this mitzvah of spreading the blood in the times of Mitzrayim in Egypt? Okay, so that's question number 6. Why to spread the blood by the door if Hashem knows who is a Jew and who isn't a Jew? Okay. Question number 7. This is our last question. I'm reminding you all questions need to be answered with one answer. So I hope you've been keeping track. Don't worry, we'll answer all 7 questions. But question number 7 is something very interesting that we have on Pesach. And that is that anyone who eats chametz on Pesach and anyone who doesn't bring a sacrifice of the Korban Pesach, he gets an issur of kares. What does kares mean? Kares is the worst punishment you can get as a Jew. It's even worse than being killed by the Sanhedrin. Why is that? Because when a person gets punished in this world, at least he knows in Olam Haba he'll be okay. But kares, it basically means that you're separated from Am Yisrael. Not just in this world, you're separated from Am Yisrael in the next world. So kares is something which is very, very it's a drastic, very extreme punishment. Why to have this punishment for for a person who eats chametz. Theoretically, he's just eating chametz. If a person eats chas v'shalom, not kosher food, eats pork, eats meat and milk, he doesn't get kares. Why by chametz do we find that a person gets kares? There's one other holiday that a person can get kares for. Does anyone know which other holiday a person can get kares if he doesn't celebrate the holiday? Any ideas, anyone? Okay, so the answer is Yom Kippur. The other holiday that we find that if a person doesn't celebrate, he gets kares is Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, you can understand, it's a day of Kedusha, it's a day where we feel close to Hashem. But why Pesach? Why Pesach? If you don't celebrate, you get kares. You get disconnected from Am Yisrael. You get separated from Am Yisrael. This is a terrible punishment. And today, unfortunately, we're not able to sacrifice a korban. We're not able to sacrifice a korban Beis HaMikdash. But theoretically, if we were able to sacrifice a korban and we didn't, then we would get kares. I have a friend who every year he tries going up to Beis HaMikdash and he tries to sacrifice a sheep as a korban Pesach, but he gets caught every year by the police. But he tries because he says, I don't want to get kares. At least I know that I tried. If Hashem asks me in Shemaim, why didn't I sacrifice the korban Pesach? At least I'll have an answer that I tried. We should know theoretically the korban Pesach is a sacrifice that if you're able to give today, you can give even if you're impure. Even if you're not pure, you can still sacrifice the korban Pesach. So if any of you are interested to try it this year, I heard, and I don't know if you're aware, but the Har HaBayis is empty. No one is going into Har HaBayis today. The Arabs are not allowed to go in because of the corona. If you're able to somehow smuggle into Har HaBayis and be makir the korban Pesach, that would be something amazing, which hasn't been done in the past 2,000 years. But theoretically, we're not chayav kares for not sacrificing the korban because we can't do it today because we don't have access. Okay, so those are the 7 questions. And I want to try to give one answer for all 7 questions that can try to make it try to explain to us what this holiday is all about, what this Chag is all about. And this way you will have 7 different divrei Torah for every day of the holiday, because you can basically ask one question for every single day, and that way you'll have 7 small divrei Torah. So it's 7 divrei Torah in one shir. So does anyone have an answer that can answer all 7 questions? Anyone have any thought? Okay, so this is not a test. So I will just share the answers.
They're all shouting out answers, but they've got themselves on mute, so you can't hear them.
I see. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. There's a very interesting Mishnah in Avos that Rabbi Shimon says that he spent many years with Talmidei Chachamim, and one of the most important and best lessons that he's learned is it's better to be silent than trying to give answers, because then you just sometimes you can make yourself look like a joke. But I'm not. I wouldn't be. I don't. I think every answer is a good answer. But I'm more than happy to share my answer. I'm more than happy to hear other answers as well. But I'll share with you my answer that I think kind of summarizes and answers all these 7 questions. So what I was thinking, and I'm going to prove it to you later, but I think Pesach is unique because Pesach is the holiday which we define ourselves as the Jewish nation. It's very different from Shavuot. It's very different from Sukkot. In Pesach, we define ourselves as Am Yisrael. I'll explain what we do in the other holidays later, but Pesach is the Chag where we define ourselves as Am Yisrael, and we start the relationship between us and Hashem. And if you understand this idea, you can answer all 7 questions. Let's go one by one and see how we can understand all 7 questions. Why, if you don't celebrate Pesach, you get kares, you get cut off from Am Yisrael? Because if Pesach is all about us seeing ourselves connected to Am Yisrael, connecting to the nation of Am Yisrael, if you don't celebrate Pesach, you're basically saying, I do not see myself as part of Am Yisrael. And if you eat chametz, it's not just that you're eating chametz. It's not just that you're eating bread. Bread is a symbol, and And matzah is a symbol of us being part of the same nation with the same history and the same story. When you eat chametz, you're basically saying, I don't see myself as part of Am Yisrael. And that is something which deserves kares, apparently. That's what Hashem thinks. If you do not celebrate Pesach and you eat chametz, you don't deserve to be part of Am Yisrael. You get cut off mi Yisrael. And we find the same idea by Korban Pesach. You will get cut off from your nation because you don't see yourself as part of Am Yisrael. And you should know that's why a lot of people who aren't necessarily from throughout the year Masorati, they will still keep this Isser of Chametz because they understand how important it is to feel part of Am Yisrael. They don't want the Isser of Kares. That's another reason, by the way, why you find a lot of people who aren't necessarily from throughout the year, but they will still come to Shul on Yom Kippur because they know that Yom Kippur is something which defines us as part of Am Yisrael. Let's go back to question number 6. Why would someone need to spread blood by his door? So let me share with you a little bit about what this blood represents. One of the holy symbols of the Egyptians was a sheep. The same way in India today, a cow is considered a holy animal. In Egypt, a sheep was considered to be a holy animal. And anyone who would check the sheep theoretically would be killed by the Egyptians. Because basically what Am Yisrael is doing on Pesach, Hashem is telling them, I want you to separate yourselves from the Egyptians. And what better way there is to separate yourself from taking something that they see as holy and sacrificing it to Hashem. So what we're saying is, I do not see myself as an Egyptian. I see myself as a Jew. Now Hashem, of course, he can distinguish between a Jew and a non-Jew by the DNA. I'm sure he has many other ways by your neshama. But what Am Yisrael did in Mitzrayim is that they had to distinguish themselves. They had to separate themselves from the Egyptians. That's what Hashem wanted to see. Hashem wanted to see that we are able to separate ourselves, to take this blood from the sheep, to smear it on our doors. And that basically shows we are not Egyptians. We are taking something that they see as holy and we give it to Hashem. And we're not embarrassed. We're willing to show everyone. We don't just keep it as a secret. And we don't put bloods on our door anymore. I think it would look a bit weird. I heard them, it might protect against corona. I don't know. I don't think you should try. But what do we do today? Today we put up a mezuzah. The mezuzah is something which is connected to this idea of smearing blood that they did in Mitzrayim. And the mezuzah represents how we see ourselves as part of Am Yisrael, the belief of the Emunah. Hashem.
Yeah.
What?
On the doorpost, the blood.
Yeah, but do you know the mezuzah
represents?
So it's a good question. Why do we need 2 mezuzahs from both sides? So I think Chachamim and the Torah didn't want to make it too difficult. According to the Torah, the right is considered always the more important side in Judaism. I'm not saying if you should be right wing or left wing, but it is something which does come up in Judaism a lot. So the way you enter from your right, that's theoretically where you should be putting the mezuzah. Okay. And throughout years, and even today, the mezuzah represents the fact that we see ourselves as Jewish people, and we separate ourselves from non-Jews.
Why don't we have
What?
That's different. You go out on the right. I don't understand how. Ezra's Rebbe told him that's where it goes.
I couldn't fully hear the question. One more time.
You've got questions already.
Oh, I just didn't hear the question. The question was why. Did I miss the question? Okay. So I didn't fully hear the question. I just raised my volume now. So if you want to ask it again, you're more than welcome to, or write it, and I will try to answer. So that answers question number 6. Us seeing ourselves as part of Am Yisrael is the reason why we had to spread the blood on the door. Moving back to question number 5. 1 second. It's a bit stuck. Okay. Question number 5. Why does Pesach, why is that a holiday where you have a second opportunity? Because it is so important to see ourselves as part of the Jewish nation. People who missed that opportunity they couldn't handle it. They felt that if they didn't sacrifice the korban of Pesach, if they didn't celebrate Pesach, they were not part of Am Yisrael. So when they came to Moshe and said, Moshe, we want to sacrifice the korban of Pesach, we want it because we want to feel betoch b'nei Yisrael. That's what they told Moshe. They said, Moshe, it's not, what?
When did they say this?
This is in Sefer Bamidbar, the people who came over to Moshe and told him it's not fair that we should miss the opportunity of sacrificing the Korban Pesach because they were tameh. Why were they tameh? The Midrash says that they were carrying the bones of Yosef. Possibly, maybe they were carrying Nadav ve'Avihu. But basically, they were tameh, so they couldn't sacrifice the first Korban. So therefore, they came to Moshe and they said, we want to feel part of Am Yisrael, and that is why Moshe and Hashem allowed them to be makiv a Pesach Sheni. What? Okay, this is Sefer Bamidbar Perek Tet. Any questions on this? Okay, say there. Why to eat a Korban Pesach do you need to have a bris milah? Well, this is a whole shir, but just to summarize, part of what defines us as a Jewish people is the bris milah. And in order to be makriv a korban Pesach, you have to see yourself as part of the Jewish people. And the bris milah, that is what it symbolizes. The fact that we see ourselves as part of the Jewish people, and we see ourselves as having a relationship with Hashem. And therefore, a person who comes to eat the Korban Pesach, but he doesn't see himself as part of the Jewish people, he can't eat the Korban Pesach because he doesn't fully understand this idea of seeing yourself as part of the Jewish people. And we find that Hashem told Avram Avinu that he has to have a bris milah, and that every single of his children has to have a bris milah. But the bris milah basically represents the fact that we see ourselves as Jewish people and having a relationship with Hashem. So again, the bris milah is really related to this idea of us seeing ourselves as part of the Jewish people. So if you don't have a bris milah and you don't see yourself as part of the Jewish people, then Pesach is one of the korbanos that you cannot, is a mitzvah in the korban that you cannot do. Why is there a mitzvah to eat it with a group of people together? So I think it's connected to the same idea. If the whole idea of Pesach is connecting to Am Yisrael, if you're eating it all by yourself, you're not feeling the connection to Am Yisrael. You're not feeling part of the greater nation, of the bigger picture. So you're not supposed to eat it by yourself because the whole idea is to feel part of Am Yisrael. So Bezrat Hashem, I hope this year no one will have to eat the Seder by alone. You can eat maybe with your husband or wife, or eat it with a group of people. But unfortunately, people sometimes this year might not be able to. Why is there a mitzvah specifically by Pesach to tell it to our children? So I think one of the most important things that we have to teach our children is this idea of feeling connected to Am Yisrael. This is one of the core values in Judaism, being connected to Am Yisrael. So of course it's important to teach this to our children. It might be even more important than other mitzvahs because this is the core and the fundamental idea of Am Yisrael. If we want our children to be connected to Am Yisrael, we have to make sure we tell them the history, because the history is what connects us to Am Yisrael. And therefore, only by Pesach do we find the mitzvah of telling our children, because our children is what defines us, what helps continue Am Yisrael. And back to the first question, why are we so machmir when it comes to chametz? I think the answer is that we're very machmir when it comes to things that define us as people. If it defines me as a person, then I'm not going to allow, even for a small amount of chametz, to get into my food, because basically to be able to define yourself, you have to separate ourselves completely from anything which might be chametz, which will ruin the story. And I think that's part of the focus of chametz and everything else in Pesach. We're not finished yet, but I think this is the answer for all 7 questions. Does anyone have any questions that I did not answer? I'm sorry. I kept on hearing some background noise, so I wasn't able to answer the questions. I hope everything was clear before we continue. But I want to try to point out how Pesach is really this Chag which we focus on us becoming a nation. So I want to share with you a really interesting point. The first time we find that Am Yisrael is called Am Yisrael, that we're considered a nation, is by Pesach. And does anyone know who defined us as a nation? Who called us Am for the first time? Who was the first person to consider us as a nation?
Horror.
Paro. That's the right answer. So if you look in Shmos Perek Aleph, the Pesach I just brought to you is here. Vayomer el Amo. Paro tells his nation, Am b'nei Yisrael ravatzu mimenu. He's very scared from Am b'nei Yisrael because they're getting so huge and large. So basically, Paro, our enemy, is the one who defines us as a nation. You can say he's the one who makes us as a nation. What did Paro do? He took all the Jews and he tried separating them. He tried, unfortunately, by making decrees and by doing gezeros. But he basically said, I don't want my nation to be connected to this Am Yisrael. And again, I don't think we can fully understand why Hashem made it, caused Am Yisrael to go to Egypt. But one of the ideas is that when we went down to Egypt, not only did we multiply and we became large, but we also basically became a nation. We became an for the first time. This connects to this idea that we were sharing, that Pesach is the holiday that defines us as Am Yisrael. On Shavuos, we celebrate something else. On Shavuos, we celebrate this idea of us receiving the Torah, of us keeping mitzvos. On Sukkot, we celebrate this idea of Hashem guarding us. But Pesach is the most fundamental Chag that shares this idea of us becoming a nation, the beginning of Am Yisrael. And I think, therefore, everything we just said really connects together to this idea of us starting to become a nation and focusing on it every year. And this is the reason why, if you look in the Torah, the first month in the Torah is not Tishrei. The first month in the Torah will be Nisan. Why specifically Nisan? Because Nisan is the holiday, it's the month where we became a nation. So Tishrei is the first month of the year for all humankind, for all human beings. But Nisan is the first month for us as Am Yisrael. And I'd like to finish with this picture. I don't know if anyone has ever seen this picture, but it's a picture from this past 2 weeks. Basically, there were about 1,000 people, 1,000 Israelis who were stuck in Peru. And El Al and the Israeli government sent planes. And these were one of the few planes that were allowed to leave Peru after they closed Peru. And basically, they took all of these Israelis, they took them back to Eretz Yisrael. And this is something amazing, which we don't find that other nationalities have done. Bringing back your citizens, sending flights. A lot of these people got free flights and basically willing to sacrifice a lot and putting a lot of effort to bring them, even though some of them had corona. But basically seeing the arevos, how much we care and responsibility that we have for every single Jew. And I think it's really appropriate, specifically in the Chodesh of Nisan, in the Chodesh of the month of that we celebrate this idea of Am Yisrael, being part of the same nation. This is something which really touched me these past 2 weeks. And it's really kibbutz galiot. It's all the Israelis coming back and returning to Eretz Yisrael. And Bezrat Hashem, Yechezkel says that in the future, Mashiach will come in the month of Nisan. And I think the reason why Mashiach is going to come in the month of Nisan is when we see how strong we are as a nation, how we care for each other so much, even though sometimes we have machlokas and sometimes we argue, we have debates, and we have a lot of different minhagim, but we see ourselves as part of the same nation. We see all 4 children, the Chacham, the Rasha, the Tam, the She'eino Yodea Lishol, and the Haggadah. We see them as part of one big family. I think that really symbolizes and connects this idea of Pesach, us feeling as one. And when Hashem sees that and we feel that and see that, I think that is, in my eyes, a good reason for the Mashiach to come. So no one knows if the Mashiach's coming yet. Some people say the Corona is gematria for Mashiach, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think, nonetheless, us feeling connected and feeling part of Am Yisrael, especially in these days, is something we can still feel, even if it's virtually. So that is the short share. I hope everything was clear. If anyone has questions, you're more than welcome to ask later or ask now. Seder.
Thank you very much indeed.
I hope everyone has a Chag Kasher v'Sameach.